Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Are we on? This is John Madden, and I'm standing here in the locker room of the Cincinnati Bengals. Somebody has to win, and somebody has to lose. And on this Super Bowl Sunday, it was the Bengals who came up short. And they're taking the loss pretty hard. Tough game, tough loss, but the fight was fair, and it was
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, man? Did you see that out-of-bounds call that the ref bought? Man, that thing was a big payoff, man. I want the country to know it was a big damn payoff.
Archie, that's a pretty strong accusation.
Ain't no damn accusation, man. It's the mob. It's the mob. The whole other team is run by the mob. That Francisco dude, he's in the mob, man. I'm telling you, man. I buy my pills and stuff from him, man. And he got Jimmy Halper. I'm serious. The dude got Jimmy Halper buried in his driveway, man. In his concrete driveway. I don't want the world to know this, man. I'm done.
That's the last kickoff he'll ever fumble.
He won the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, when they handed it to him, he dropped it. I'm telling you, the guy's a bum. I'm glad he killed himself.
You know, I got a feeling Pete Johnson is gonna slit his wrists.
Maybe we should go up to Phyllis George, who's probably talking to someone about something.
I was the head coach of the Oakland Raiders for 10 years, and those were 10 of the most enjoyable years of my life. I loved it. I loved every part of it. We got these players that were supposed to be bad or they didn't fit in here. All I would tell them is blend in. That's all. No big speeches, because you know what happens? When a guy has a problem, or the guy is up against the wall, or he has his back up against the wall, or he's in a corner, it's his last chance, there's no one that knows it better than him. So for you to give a speech about, okay, your back's up against the wall, he knows more about it than you do. See? I really only had 3 rules. One is be on time, pay attention, and play like hell when I tell you to. I mean, that's all you have to do. If you narrow it down to what has to be done, I felt by playing hard, when you go. And intimidate, it's you better bring a pretty good load with you. It's not the arrow, it's the Indian. And, you can go out and do a lot of talk. But, that's all it is talk unless you play. And you can talk about how tough you are, but you better be able to catch them. You better be able to get in position. You better be able to cover them. We had that with the Raiders. I mean, when you put on the Oakland Raider uniform, you became a different guy. Bob Brown came in to the Raiders, and he was a tough guy. Bob Brown was a tough guy. We traded for him. And so we're in training camp in Santa Rosa. And everyone's looking, Bob Brown's coming, Big Bob. They don't know what to call him, Boomer. No one knows this guy. He got all these nicknames. So when we used to go to training camp for 2 days, we'd just go out and work out and let the guys work out on their own. So the first day, Bob comes out and comes out in a pair of shorts, and he's a big guy. I mean, he pumped iron before guys did. I mean, his arms look like legs, So he walks out in a pair of shorts, and he walks the length of the field. And in those days in Santa Rosa, we still had the wooden goal posts that had both things. You had, instead of one thing that held up, you had 2 things, 2. So everyone watches him, and he walks up the whole length of the field, the whole 100 yards, goes in the other end zone, gets down in a stance, and he had this stance where he put his right foot way back. And he had a different stance than most tackles. His feet were kind of close together, his right foot way back. And everyone is watching him practice this kind of stuff, and everyone's kind of looking at Bob Brown down there in the other end. And he gets in the stance, he goes, whap! Fires out, no pads on or anything. hits the goalpost goes boom, right down, knocked the goalpost down. Then he got up, he never went down, he hit it, and he just went down, walked out to the sideline, walked back into the locker room and got dressed. That was it. And then the guys were, Coach, what do we call him? Do we call him Bob? Do we call him Mr. Brown? Do we call him Boomer or whatever? George Blanda was just an amazing guy. George was one of those guys that had more pride than anyone I knew. During practice, he may not be able to kick a field goal or complete a pass, but he would get in a game, and he was so competitive, and the adrenaline would flow so strongly, he could do anything. Anytime you would put George in, the first thing he'd want was Warren Wells. Give me Warren Wells. And I remember we're playing a game, and we're down on the goal line. And so I'm saying, okay, we have a timeout. And I'm saying, okay, let's run one to the right, 16 Bob Trejo. He said, but I'll tell you what. He said, if you let me throw 3 slants to Warren Wells, I'll guarantee a touchdown. I said, you'll guarantee it? He said, yeah, I'll guarantee it. I said, well, that's better than my deal. Go ahead. Boom, he threw the first one incomplete, the second one complete for the touchdown, and we win the game. He'd kick a 52-yard field goal, and you know he couldn't kick 52 yards. But if it meant the game, he could do it. There was a period there where he was coming in as a quarterback, and winning the games, and then he would win the games throwing, he'd win the games kicking, and it was just a phenomenal time.
LaMonica will spot at the 48. It's snapped. It's kicked. It is good. It's good. It is good. George Blanda has kicked a 48-yard field goal. They're going to try a field goal from 53 yards. Odds against this must be about 76 million to a half. Snap. Spotted. It's kicked. That's got a chance. That is good. It's good. From the 20, Blanda back, setting up. He looks. He fires for Biletnikoff. On the 2, touchdown Raiders. They're hanging from the cliff again. LaMonica will spot it. It's snapped. It's spotted. It's kicked. It's good.
I remember Warren Wells was a great player, and the Jets were beating us, and we're behind with like 10 seconds to go. And Darryl LaMonica throws a long pass in the end zone to Warren Wells.
Wells now in for Biletnikoff. LaMonica back. He's looking to the end zone. He's throwing deep for Wells in traffic. And it's batted around, and Wells catches the ball. Wells has caught the ball.
What happened is Warren Wells had such great, talent to be able to see the ball and adjust his hands and adjust, to the flight of the ball, that it looked like the ball was tipped. The ball was tipped, and when you would look at it, it looked like it tipped off one of their defensive backs into Warren Wells' hand in the end zone. And we fought that and Warren was a guy that didn't talk much. Warren never said anything. Everyone says, well, the guy should have intercepted it, tipped off his hands into your hand. Never said anything. And then we finally, in the offseason, we were doing a highlight film, and you see Warren coming down, and the defensive guy is going to intercept it, and Warren sticks his hand in between the guy's hand and tips it up himself, and then goes and catches it with both hands. I remember Ray Guy. Ray Guy was a #1 draft choice and a great punter. And everyone questioned us when we took a punter in the first round. And that was one of our choices that we all agreed on. I don't think there was any argument from anyone on Ray Guy. It sounded, because he was such a great punter. So we had this one film, a Ray guy, and he is kicking out of his own end zone, backed up, the old saying, backed up against the wall. I mean, he was up against the cliff. And he kicked the ball out of his own end zone, and the ball went the length of the field. I don't know, it hit somewhere down around the 20, and then bounced into the end zone. So he kicked it out of one end zone, the length of the field, into the other end zone. And I thought, if we can get a guy like that, that helps our offense, because then I could tell our quarterback, look, don't force anything. The worst thing we can have to do on third down, when it gets to be third down, is not be successful and punt. And with Ray Guy, that's a pretty good deal. So the first day we have him in, I'm watching him punt, and he gets the ball, boom. I mean, he's booming them way up high, and they're going like, that was the first time I ever started hang time. I didn't know, hang time is the time the ball leaves the guy's foot until it's caught. That's the hang time, how long it stays in the air. And I didn't know from hang time. I mean, now we're putting clocks, holy moly, 5 foot, 5'2", 5'8", 6'1", So I was thinking, dude, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. So I said, okay, that's enough, Ray. That's good. He said, Coach, I haven't even warmed up yet. He was still stretching. He was still warming up, and I thought those were great punts, and he hadn't even gotten into punting them. We were in the Pro Bowl, and so during the game, the first punt, he says, can I hit the gondola, Coach? And I goes, no, it's a game. You can't hit the gondola. So then he starts to run there. I said, wait a minute, come on. I started thinking, what the heck? It's a Pro Bowl game. It's an all-star game. I called him back, and I said, okay, take one shot at the gondola. You hit it. So anyway, so he did that. He punted and hit the gondola, and then, they had to call him back. And, I mean, he could have sat there all night and kept hitting the gondola in New Orleans. I mean, keep hitting the roof all night. I mean, the guy could do anything coming off the ball with his foot.
R-E-S-P-C-T, find out what it means to me.
We're playing Pittsburgh, the end of the season, playoff game, and we're behind, and I put Kenny Stabler in, and he scores a touchdown, and we're ahead. Now we hold them, and it's fourth down, and we got him. And, Bradshaw goes back to pass.
Bradshaw back, setting up. Ducks away from the rush by Jones, rolling out to the right. Here comes Jones again. He pumps, he fakes, he fires. It is batted up by Tatum. And Franco Harris somehow has the football. Harris, the stealer back, running down the left side. Here comes Jimmy Warren. He dives and misses him. And Harris has scored for the Steelers. An incredible development.
So now there was a rule in those days that if the ball hit the offensive guy, that then another offensive guy can't catch it. So it was whether it hit Frenchie Fuqua or not, because the ball was intended for Fuqua. And Tatum and Fuqua hit at the same time. And the ball goes off, and then Franco catches it and runs it in. So the officials go into a huddle. And so I run out in the field, and they're not sure what happened. And then the referee walks over to the dugout, the baseball dugout, and he talks to someone on the phone. And after he talks on the phone, he hangs it up, and he walks over and signals touchdown. So I've never to this day found out who he's talked to or what they talked about. Marv Hubbard always told the story that the guy goes on the phone and he says, do you have a helicopter to get us out of here? And the guy said, no. And he said, okay, it's a touchdown for Pittsburgh. That has to be the most disappointing loss that I ever had. It was one of those things that could go either way. Pittsburgh won that one. And then the one in San Diego, we won. We had no timeouts. It was the fourth quarter going at the end of the game. We're going for a win. And we had taken our last timeout. And I remember telling Stabler, the thing that you can't do is you can't take a sack. It says you have to get rid of the ball. So now he's thinking that, but he's at the same time he's trying to hold the ball till someone gets open so he can throw the touchdown pass. So as he does, he starts to get tackled, and he remembers he can't take a sack. So he just starts to go and just lets the ball go as he gets hit. So that's a fumble. So now Pete Banaszak, he goes to pick up the ball, but time is out. So now he lets it go forward. And then Dave Casper's running, and he picks it up in the end zone and carries it in for a touchdown. So, of course, we won the game.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T, take-F-T-C-B.
Al Davis is probably the most misunderstood person in sports. He's a very compassionate person. He's a very given person. He's a very warm person. If someone needs something, he's there. And his public persona doesn't come across as that way. I mean, he is a tough guy. I mean, he's a tough guy. He's a tough businessman. He's a tough football man. He's a competitor. He wants to win as much as anyone wants to win. But I've always felt that if anything happened, if I had one call that I could make for help, whatever it was, I'd call Al Davis. And I don't think you can say any more about a person. And the other thing, I don't think I'd be the only guy that would call Al Davis. Everyone says, how could you work for Al Davis? And I always said it was easy. I not only think he was an easy guy to work for, he was a great guy to work for. I mean, not that we didn't have arguments, not that we agreed on everything, we didn't. But the guy was a knowledgeable guy, and I had respect for him, and overall the experience was enjoyable. I was the head coach of the Oakland Raiders for 10 years, and those were 10 of the most enjoyable years of my life. I loved it. I loved every part of it. This was the story when Tom Flores, who was my assistant and then became the head coach, but he was a quarterback for the Oakland Raiders when Al was the head coach. And there was one time where Tom got hurt, and Tom tells the story, and they drag him off in the sideline. He's laying there, and George Anderson, the trainer's putting ice on him, and Al wants him to get back and get better quicker. You know, the quicker you can get. So Al yells at the trainer, George Anderson. He said, "Is that the coldest ice you got?" You know, the Oakland Coliseum was always wet. So every team blamed us for watering the field down. And they would blame Al Davis. I mean, that was one of the great things, having Al Davis for an owner. No matter what happened, Al Davis got blamed. So we found out that it's easier to take credit. And if they want to believe that you watered down the field, it's easier to say, yeah, we did, than it is to try and defend it and explain that the field is here and the drainage and the boom, boom, boom. So I remember I would go with Hank Stram, and you know, he wanted to believe that we watered the field because he had all those speedy guys. So I'd tell him, Hank, we watered the field. I'm sorry, but it's more wet than usual. I said, we watered all the time. I said, you know what the guys did? I said, listen to this, Hank, you won't believe it. I said, Saturday, I tell them, okay, the Chiefs will come in and water it down good, guys. They turn on the water and they go to lunch. And then they come back, Hank, and they flood it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had them water it, but I didn't tell them to flood it, Hank. This is flooded. And, you know, I would just, you know, if they believe that that you did it, then you just go along with it.
When you come home, are you not walking?
Ted Hendricks was a great player. But once you know that the guy was a great player, then the guy was a little different, too. In Oakland, we had a row of sinks and mirrors, and at the end of the row of sinks and mirrors, we had a row of toilets. Well, one day, Ted Hendricks was at the end sink and mirror, and he was going to comb his hair, and as he reached into his pocket to get his comb out, some change fell in the toilet. So I was up at the other end of the thing, and I was watching down there, and Ted starts staring into the toilet. And I says, man, this is weird. I said, you got to watch, because linebackers as a group are goofy anyway, and you got to watch what they're doing. So I said, I'm going to keep an eye on this. So the next thing I know, he kneels down, and he's staring in the toilet. So I said, what the heck is he doing? I said, I'll keep an eye on this. So then he stood up, reaches in his pocket again, takes out a roll of bill, takes a $50 bill, and he goes, whap, and throws it in the toilet. I said, holy moly, Ted, what the heck are you doing? You're weird. He looked at me and said, you don't think I'm going in there for 35 cents, do you? It started off, and we had a lot of injuries, and we were a four-man line. And that year, we went to a three-man line because we lost, players like Horace Jones and Art Toms, and we lost all these guys. So we ended up where we had Dave Rowe, and we played him at nose tackle, and we had Otis Sistrunk, we played him at end, and then we had Charles Filiaw, who was a rookie, who was new, and that was a defensive line. That was all we had. So we picked up John Matusak. He was cut free by the Redskins. We picked him up, and that kind of put it together. Then we had a three-man line. And then those guys stayed healthy all year. And then Willie Hall became our fourth linebacker and had a great year. Willie Hall had a super year for us. And then we had, the other ingredients, Phil Villapiano, we had Hendricks, we had Monty Johnson. We had a great secondary. Skip Thomas was one corner, Willie Brown the other, George Atkinson and Jack Tatum. I mean, it was a good defense that in those days darn near had to play every down. That really went out there and had fun. Our receivers, we had Cliff Branch on one side, Fred Bolitnikoff on the other side, and Dave Casper as a tight end. And then we had Mark Van Egan, Clarence Davis. Clarence Davis could have been one of the best running backs when you take everything in football, at that time. But he never got the credit because he never had a lot of yardage. Pete Banaszak was one of those guys that was the heart and soul of the team. If you needed a first down and it was third down and short yardage, you're on the goal line, you just put Pete in. And we had, big tackles, Henry Lawrence, Art Shell. Art Shell's in the Hall of Fame. John Vella, George Beeler at guard, Gene Upshaw, Dave Dalby. Center of that whole period, we only had two centers, Jim Otto and Dave Dalby. And they just kind of played every down. Ken Stabler was that way. He could go out and play. I love quarterbacks that had that. George Blanda had that, that type of attitude. Norm Van Brocklin had that type of attitude. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. Stabler used to throw a low ball or throw one into the dirt or something. And the guy would come back into the huddle and he'd say, low ball thrower, high ball drinker. And that just kind of made them, there's nothing else to complain about. He'd throw a low ball, or he'd call a play, and the linemen would complain that they couldn't do it. It was a tough play or something they didn't like. He'd say, yep, easy to call, hard to run, let's go. And that was kind of the end of it. You had these things with, so what? Don't worry. Maybe it is hard, but go do it anyway. And I think that kind of attitude is good. I think that we had a lot of those type of guys that would make things happen, that would drag race you to the cliff.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of the guns at once and explode into space.
Stabler back to set up now. Here comes the rush. He gets rid of the ball up the field, firing for Branch. And he makes the catch. Two defenders bump and fall. Branch off to the races. Nobody will touch him. He's going all the way.
I like smoking lightning, heavy metal thunder, racing with the wind, and the feeling that I'm under. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once.
Stabler back setting up. Throwing a deep bomb. He's going to Branch. Fires backs it. But Branch makes the catch. Touchdown Raiders. Holy Toledo.
Nature's child, we were born to be wild. We can climb so high, I never wanna die. Born to be wild.
The biggest game that season for me, and I think the thing that helped us and is a game that I thought was good for the Oakland Raiders and was good for football, was the Cincinnati Bengal game. We're playing them at the end of the season. Now, the game doesn't mean anything to us. We're already in the playoffs, and we have home field advantage throughout. Paul Brown is coaching Cincinnati. It's his last game. It's his last year. So now what happens, if Cincinnati beats us, they go to the playoffs, and we get to play them, and they eliminate the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have been a nemesis to us for a long time. If we beat them, they're out, and the Steelers are in. So before the game, all the talk is that we're going to lose because we don't have to win, and we don't want Pittsburgh in there. By winning, we'd put Pittsburgh in. So Pittsburgh, of course, is using the thing, you know, the Raiders aren't going to win, they don't want us. And I don't think in my whole life that I was so excited or so fired up about a game than I was that Bengal game. And because just the thing that it didn't mean anything, baloney, it didn't mean anything, it meant a heck of a lot. And I told the team that. I mean, this means a lot. This is what football's all about. You don't have to have a reason. If you have to have a reason to be good, then what happens when you don't have a reason? What are you going to be, bad? You know, we can't go through life having to have a reason to do our best. Anyway, we went out, and we not only beat the Bengals that night, but we beat them pretty good. And we played one of the best games we ever played. And I don't think I was ever more proud of a group than I was that night that we beat the Cincinnati Bengals.
Born to be wild.
The Patriot game, you know, when we get into playoffs and we get behind and we have to drive down the field and score, and Kenny Stabler, who's not a runner, runs a fake trap. We called it, you know, fake trap 32 bootleg left U corner, and they don't go for the fake and they cover the thing, and the only option left is snake to run. And I see that referee put his hands up. I don't think I was ever as happy as that moment right then.
Born to be wild. Born to be wild.
So I called John Robinson. He said, next year, the Super Bowl's in the Rose Bowl. And he says, I see us being USC being there the week before, and you'll come in the week later. He says, I'll tell you what. He said, if we go to the Rose Bowl and win it, I'll stay there for a week until you get there. And it was prophetic in that that's exactly what happened. John Robinson told me, he said, the thing you have to have, because the Rose Bowl's in Pasadena, and it's hard to get to. I mean, it's not right off a freeway. You got to go winding roads and all this stuff. No. He said, so you have to have a helicopter. I mean, he said he had a helicopter, and you put the helicopter up, and the helicopter leaves it. Well, I figured if he is a college team and he has one helicopter, I'll get two. And so I had two helicopters because we're in the Super Bowl, and that's pro. Now, we're in the bus, and I'm looking at the helicopter, and the helicopter is talking to the guy, and we're going through the streets, and I'm thinking, what the heck am I doing with that other helicopter? You know, and I look, and the other helicopter's behind us. I'm thinking, what's he going to do? Tell us where we've been? I mean, we got one telling us where we're going. We got the other guy telling us where we've been. But that was just, you know, I mean, John Robinson and I, all our life, played one-upsmanship. And if he had one helicopter, I had two helicopters. But anyway, I had left early. It was figured a half hour, so I figured we'd leave at 10. So then I got to the pregame meal, and I said, well, let's go at like 9:45. Let's move it up. So that gives us 45 minutes, a little cushion in there in case things. So I get out there, and it's like, 9:20 or something. And I just look, and everyone looks like they're there, and there's some guys out there bothering us and stuff. Some guy with a pirate who wants to be our thing, wants to be in the sideline, and I'm saying, you know, I've had enough of that. I just want to get on the bus. Let's go. So I get on, assume everyone's there, and tell the driver, okay, take off. Well, I started riding, and I knew there's something wrong. You know, I'm figuring out this helicopter thing. We're going to the Super Bowl, biggest day in our lives. And anyway, I got there, and I knew that every player wasn't on the bus. And I didn't know exactly which ones, but I knew they weren't there. So I started looking. Now, when you're the head coach, you're like the captain of the ship. And you can't walk around, you know, saying, hey, I lost my player. You know, where's my player? You can't tell anyone. You're stupid. So what I did was I just started looking for him. And I figured out John Matusak wasn't there. And Carl Garrett wasn't there. I started figuring out who wasn't there. Now, how can you lose John Matusak? And so finally, I had to tell someone, because we're getting at the point that I had to get someone back there to get him there. So I went, and our trainer, George Anderson, was taping the players. And I said, you know, I left some players back at the hotel. And he says, no, they're here. And I rattled off names, and I said, no, I've been looking for them. George, they're not here. And he goes, yeah, he said, they're hiding from you because they thought that they were late, you know, and they were thinking, oh, the Super Bowl, we're late, he's going to fine us, you know, millions for a Super Bowl. So what was happening is I would walk out onto the field, and they would see me come out, and they'd run in. And I would run in, and they'd run out. And it was just like, you know, playing hide-and-go-seek. And then finally I told George, tell them it's okay, I left early. I mean, I left 25 minutes before we were supposed to. And the guy who was a pain, the guy that was a pirate who wanted to be the mascot, he was the guy who drove 3 of them, and the other 2 took a cab. So anyway, so we finally got the whole group there. So we go out in the field. Now, our first Super Bowl. So Ray Guy had never had a punt blocked in his life. I knew he never had one in college or pro. So the Minnesota Vikings were very good at blocking punts. So all the week, and they had blocked the kick. They had beaten the Rams the week before on a blocked kick. I mean, the Rams in the championship game to win the game. So everyone's asking me, well, aren't you afraid of a blocked kick? I said, no. They said, well, Minnesota Vikings block a lot of kicks. I said, yeah, but they've never blocked one of Ray Guy's. You know, getting too cocky, see. And, well, they know how. Well, we know how to block. Ray Guy never got. So anyway, so now we get there. We get the ball. The first drive, we're about midfield. Now, I'm looking down towards the end zone, like down here, figuring Ray Guy will kick one down to the end zone. I'm looking down there, and I hear, when you are a coach and you're in the sideline, or you're a player, or you're anyone, you only want to hear one thump when a guy kicks the ball. If you hear 2 thumps, something bad has just happened to you. So anyway, so Ray Guy goes back to punt, and you hear a thump, thump. And I say, oh.
One man behind the line of scrimmage on the rush. Here comes the kick. It is blocked. It's blocked by Fred McNeil. It's loose on the 5-yard line. Running after it, the Minnesota Vikings. They down it on the Raider 2-yard line.
Here's the score, 0-0 Super Bowl, Minnesota Vikings, Fran Tarkenton at quarterback. They get the ball first down on the 2-yard line. So now you're thinking, what can happen? I mean, millions of people watching it. First time of ever. So now my defense not only goes in and stops them, but we cause a fumble. Phil Villapiano hits him, cause a fumble, we recover the fumble. So not only did we stop him, but we got the ball back. So now my defense comes running off the field. You know, and one of my players said, Coach, I think you better check Villapiano. I think he's goofy. And I said, I know he's goofy. You know, linebackers are a different breed anyway. And I said, well, why? And he goes, well, he was in the huddle, and he was saying, now we got him where we want him. I said, ooh, that is bad. You know, I mean, here's the guy. They got the ball on the 2-yard line. My guy's in there saying to defense, now we got him where we want him. So I said, I'll go check him. So I go over, and I'm talking to Phil, and said, you okay? Because sometimes in the goal line, they get dinged, you know, and they're, you know. So I said, you okay? He said, I'm fine, we're coming. I said, no, we're not doing anything. Just take it easy. I said, you okay? Yeah, I'm great. We got him now, Coach, we got him now. And I said, no, we really don't. I said, that was a good play. I said, did you say in the huddle, now we got him where we want him? He said, yeah. He said, we did have him where we want him. He said, look, he said, they're on the 2-yard line. He said, they aren't going to throw any deep passes, right? He said, they're not going to run any sweeps, they're not going to run any reverse. I just got out a little wider, and I come in and hit the quarterback, the ball carrier, and the ball at the same time. I'm going, yeah. That's right. I'm agreeing with him. I thought he was goofy, because there are three kinds of people. There are those that make things happen, those that watch things happen, and those that don't know what's happening. And I've been all three and coached all three, and in that case, you know, there were guys that made something happen, like Villapiano. So we're just trying to get that ball back off the goal line. Clarence Davis breaks one up.
He's up to the 20, up to the 30-yard line, jukes a defender, goes to the 35, spun down at the 40-yard line.
Then we went on, we got a field goal, and we missed, then we got another field goal. And I was really upset. I remember the second field goal we got, we'd been moving the ball up and down, and all we had was 6 points. And I thought, geez, we're killing these guys, and the score ought to be 30-0. So the offense is coming off, and I'm telling them, hey, look, that's no, I said, we need touchdowns. And I was ranting and raving and carrying on like an idiot. And I remember Ken Stabler came over to me and said, don't worry, Coach, there's a lot more where those came from. So I felt better. I thought, that's good. That was okay.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway. Looking for adventure. And whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. And like the true nature's child, we were born to be wild. We can climb so high, I never wanna die.
It was a great feeling. I think that of all the feelings in sports that I ever had, it's winning a Super Bowl. And I remember after we won it, Roger Staubach says that they can never take it away from you. And you carry it around. You know, I'm in Super Bowl 11. There's no one else won Super Bowl 11. We did.
They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make a big star out of me. We'll make a film about a man that's sad and lonely. And all I gotta do is act naturally.
It's very difficult after 10 years to stand up and say that you're retiring. I'm not resigning, I'm not quitting, I'm not doing anything. I'm retiring from football coaching, and I'm never going to coach again.
When I retired, I wasn't going to do anything. And then Miller contacted me and said that they would like me to do an audition. And I wasn't interested. And again, by saying no, I think I made them more interested, because they thought I was holding out or something. And I wasn't. I just didn't want to do it. I was going to take a year off and do nothing. So finally I got bored and I decided, yes. I went back to New York and did my first Miller Lite commercial. And that was, you know, the guy told me, he said, oh, you know, this exposure. I said, I don't need exposure. I don't care. I said, I've been the coach, and then I've been in big games, Super Bowl, All-Star games, Pro Bowls. I said, and he said, well, this is going to be a different exposure you've never known. And it was true. I mean, then after I did that, you got to be known as the Miller Lite guy.
Excuse me. I'm not the same crazy coach who used to storm around the sidelines yelling at the officials. I've learned to relax, and I drink light beer from Miller. You know that Light's got a third less calories than their regular beer? And listen to this. Light doesn't fill me up. Besides that, Light tastes fantastic. Oh, sure, there are a lot of other beers around, and you can drink any one you want. But let me tell you this.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
As I was saying, I don't care what anybody else...
That was the first time, 1979, that I broke through anything. And then after that, I got known, you know, oh, you know him, you know, not as a coach. You coach for 20 years and you break through one piece of paper. Now you're known as the guy who breaks through the Miller. Oh, you know him, Agnes. He's the guy, boom, yeah, the crazy guy. Yeah. And that's what you're known for. And you think, you know, one little 30-second commercial and a whole career, and it's the Miller Lite guy.
I'll bet you I'm gonna be a big star. Might win an Oscar, you can't never tell.
When I coached, I flew all the time. So then when I got out, I think the thing is the fact that I didn't have to do it anymore is the thing that set me off on this whole thing with claustrophobia. And I got on an airplane and the flight attendant closed the door. We're still on the ground. When she closed the door, this feeling came over me. I had to get out of there. And so I had to make a decision. Do I make a jerk out of myself and embarrass myself, or do I gut it out? So I decided to gut it out. And because it was there the whole time. Just this whole rush, you know, the cold sweat and the thing, and you got to get out, but you're up there. I mean, you can't get out. So I kind of said one of those things that if I get out of this one, I'll never get on another airplane as long as I live. So we landed in Houston. I got off, went and got a hotel room, stayed overnight, got on a train, took a train home. Never been on an airplane since. And I started taking the trains, and I loved it. And at first, I didn't tell anyone that I was taking the trains because what I was doing, by then I'm working for CBS Sports, and I'm doing games. I was like a closet train guy, taking the train, but no one knew it. I didn't tell anyone. And then finally, I had to tell someone, so I told them that I took the train. And with CBS, I said, you know, I mean, that's my problem. And, you know, so wherever you want me, just tell me to get there. And so I did that, you know, from 79 through 86 or so, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, the trains were a fun thing.
The movie's gonna make me a big star.
So I'm traveling on the train with a group, and I'm doing a television interview for public broadcasting, and we're talking. And I say, you know, someday I'm going to get a bus. I'm going to get one of those buses, and that's how I'm going to travel someday. I'm not going to take the train anymore. It just so happened that the guy was in Arizona buying the bus company. And the guy that worked with him, they were watching, he was watching this PBS. And he said, I was watching this program, and John Madden says he'd like to have a bus. Why don't we give him one? So now they call up and says, we'll give you a bus. I said, yeah, okay. You know, thinking that it's one of those things that will never happen. And it did happen. I designed the bus, and luckily, the ideas that I had worked. And it's the first time because you're dealing with something that it's just a long tube. So you can put anything in there. We're talking about a brand new bus with no inside, and then they build the inside. There's a company in Ohio, Columbus Coach, that builds these things. So I had the idea that I wanted, like, the living room in front. I wanted everything big there. I mean, it's a big couch, big thing, big chairs. And then I wanted the kitchen. I could cook a gourmet dinner in there, but, you know, I don't know how to cook, so I can't cook that good, so I can't use it there. Then I got a bathroom with a big shower. I wanted a big, you know, usually in, like, buses and airplanes and trains, they have little old bathrooms, you know, and you always have to squeeze in them. So I said, big bathroom, tile floor, big shower, you know, where you can get in there and hose down. Then in the back, my bedroom, I wanted a big bed, a big bedroom. And so then that's basically it. And then everything in the front makes into beds. I mean, the couch makes into a bed, and above the couch is a bed. And the dining room, I mean, the place, the table comes down, and that makes into a bed, and above that is a bed. So right in the front, there's 4 beds. So then the next thing we wanted was VCR, so we have, you know, 2 tape machines, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. We got a television in the front, and a television in the back. We got phones. We got intercoms in the bus. We got cellular phones. So really, you know, like, it takes me now, and the bus takes me 2 days. I can go coast to coast in 2 days. It's something that, you know, we've taken it, you know, Washington, D.C., and, you know, and senators and congressmen. And the thing is a very popular thing, and I don't know exactly why, except I think that everyone has either done it or would like to do it, or says, man, this guy's weird. How does he do this? I want to see what this is like.
Well, I'll bet you I'm gonna be a big star. Might win an Oscar, you can't never tell.
I didn't know a lot about Saturday Night Live, and then one day I was doing something at NBC. I was live at 5 or one of those shows. I walked out, and I ran into Dick Ebersol, who was the producer, and he said, "Would you like to host Saturday Night Live?" And it's an NBC show. So I said, "Geez, I don't know if I can with CBS." He said, "Well, let me check it." He said, "If they'll okay it, will you do it?" And I said, "Yeah," after the season. So I forgot all about it. And the next thing I know, CBS okayed it, and I'm the host of Saturday Night Live. And it was the first Super Bowl I did for CBS. It was a Super Bowl in Detroit between the San Francisco 49ers and the Cincinnati Bengals. And that was on Super Bowl Sunday, and then I was going to host Saturday Night Live the next Saturday. So what they did is right after the Super Bowl was there, they came and started with the writers meeting with me in the hotel that night. And then we took a train from Detroit to New York, and they started shooting stuff on the train. Then I got to New York, and it was one of the most fun things that I ever done. I didn't know much about television. I didn't know much about live, shows, and how these guys just come into a room and they have no ideas. They have nothing for the show. There's nothing done. This is Tuesday. And at that time, Joe Piscopo was on the show. Eddie Murphy was on the show. He was like 20 years old then. And Brian Doyle Murray, Bill Murray would hang around there. And it was really a fun thing. And they start like an idea, and someone would have an idea, like someone said, I watch the Super Bowl, and they always show the winners celebrate. The champagne, the wine, the thing like that. Everyone pouring beer and stuff. What do the losers do? What's the losers' locker room like? Do they go kill each other, or?
Here's a sad little guy, the place kicker. Anton Bogushevskonovsky. Anton, get up here, Anton. There seemed to be an iron curtain between you and the goalpost today.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault. I am kick with my foot, and is not always not good because ball is going here, sometime ball is going there, sometime. I'm used to kicking with round ball with white and black spots on it. This ball is different. But I love here in this country, my country, much trouble, much danger. I love America. I want to stay here. I love it
That's
here.
him, the little mohawk. He's got no green card. He's got no paper. Who's that?
Lenny Johnstone.
Good.
Bengals coach Forrest Gregg. Well, it's been a long season, and nobody expected you guys to get this far, least of all me.
John, these boys may have lost, but they in no way disgraced themselves. They disgraced me. They humiliated me. John, you know what it's like to get that close and blow it?
Yeah.
Of course you do, I forgot.
Hey, I'm not apologizing for my record. Listen, there's a lot of reasons.
Yeah, always reasons. You mean excuses. There's always excuses, sure. The crowd's too noisy, the field's too hot, the light hurts their eyes. Come on, John, they choked. In front of 100 million people, they choked. And they're gonna live with the stench of defeat in their nostrils for the next 6 months. A bunch of gutless wonders.
Eddie Murphy, I remember that was when he was doing Buckwheat, and he wrote that the way it sounded. Like he had a thing. I remember because I read the cue card on that, and see, because everything, even though it's live and spontaneous, it has to be written down because it has to be okayed by the censors. So he had this cue card, and it would say like, "Oh man, eat day." It would be like, "D-I-D-I-O man, he day what," and the whole thing was written. And I said, "What is it?" I wish I would have kept that cue card, because Eddie Murphy not only did it, but he had to write it, and he wrote it that way, And then he got there, "Oh man, he day what."
Ditto man, eBay knit man on my dumb in the midnight patty, my deep banana bone, itto man, they moan it on. Super fat
Panataginista, Epanadosha, Epatea, no, Pedana, Tanatosha, Dupa Panataginista, Epanadosha.
Thanks, Buckwheat. I gotta be honest, I don't know what the hell you just said, but I enjoyed it anyway.
I mean, I enjoy doing live events where it's real and it's happening. And the Saturday Night Live, I think, was the closest thing to non-football or a non-sporting event that I've ever done. One night I was standing out in front of the building in New York, and this guy comes up and he's wearing a baseball cap, and we start talking, and he's going on, and we're talking for an hour. We're talking about the Giants and the Mets and the Yankees and, you know, and Phil Simms and the whole league and who's going to win. And the guy was a real nice guy, and I didn't know who he was. So at the end, he was telling me that John Candy did a thing, and of me as me in a museum. John Candy walked in, and I hadn't seen it. It was on some show. John Candy walked in a museum and started chalkboarding art.
You know, Dave, Sunday is Super Bowl 18. And what more appropriate time could there possibly be to talk with former head coach of the Raiders and current network sportscaster John Madden?
John Madden is a surprising and an unusual guy, but the biggest surprise we found at Weekend Tonight was that he has a profound appreciation for the works of some of the great masters.
That's right, Dave. And we caught up with John Madden as he was admiring some of the Rembrandts, some of the Franz Hals at New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art.
And, Buck, it's plain to see that the same keen eye that can spot a blitzing linebacker or read a nickel defense can also appreciate the interplay of light and color as employed by some of the great master painters of all time.
Absolutely. Chiaroscuro, I think, is what they call it. And John Madden understands that, the same way he understands how those men charge down the field and what to do with them and how to direct them on the quest for victory.
An incredible strategist like John Madden also have that soft and aesthetic side. It's a surprise to me, and I was delighted to see it.
Absolutely.
John Madden, sportscaster, art lover.
And he asked me if I'd ever seen it. I said, no. He said, well, I know the producer. He said, I'll send you a copy of the tape. I said, geez, that'd be great. And we had talked for like over an hour. And then at the end, he shakes hands and says, by the way, my name's Paul Simon. And it was Paul Simon. And then I had seen him since that time, but then he did a video. And it was a video where for charity. And it was me and Julio down by the schoolyard. So he asked me to be a part of that video. So I was in the video along with Spud Webb and Mickey Mantle.
I'm taking my time, but I don't know where. Goodbye to Rose, the queen of Corona. See me and Julio down by the schoolyard.
Hey, guys, come here. Hey, huddle up around here. I've been watching you guys. You guys need some fundamentals, you know what I mean? Knees bent, heads up, shoulders squared. Look, you don't have to go bombs all the time. Pump some in, some out, some hooks. You don't need to pin some plays. You got some solid in, some out, some hooks. Heck, you can run that counter trap to gap it. Just don't listen to coaches the way they used to.
I
do a Giant game in New York, you get, I mean, people on the street talk to you about the game. You know, hey, how about that guy? Why did the Giants go for it on 4th down? You know, what's Sims? Sims can't see or what? You know, I mean, you get a lot of that stuff. Yeah, hey, what's the matter? You know, especially if they lose. But even if they win, there's, oh, hey, it was a great play. Did you ever see a guy like that? Lawrence Taylor made 10 days. So I'm walking across the street, and this guy hollers out to me, and he said, John Madden. And I looked over at him, and, you know, I thought it was going to be a comment. He said, President Nixon would like to say hello to you. I look, and there's President Nixon in the car with this guy. So I went over and talked, and it was one of those driven cars, but he was sitting in the front seat, which I liked. I mean, you know, sitting up there in the front seat, and we talked about the Giants. I mean, President Nixon is a real football fan, and he really knows football or knew football and was a real Giant fan. He says, I want them to beat the Bears. He said, but I don't think they can. He said, I think the Bears are going to win next week. And then that was a week before they played the Bears in Chicago, and the Bears beat them and went to the Super Bowl. Mike Ditka, I think, does a great job, and we do a lot of Bear games. One time, we were doing a game, and they were playing someone, the Minnesota Vikings or something. They didn't do very well in the first half. So Pat Summerall and I are doing the game, and they're a little flat, so they come out at halftime. In the second half, they just blow the other team out. We're saying, you know, Ditka, one thing about a good coach, they make good adjustments at halftime. You know, they have the Polaroids, they study the Polaroids, they have computer printouts, they have the play. You know, this whole analytical thing of what Mike Ditka and the Bears did. And then after that offseason, I was talking to Ditka, and he said he was so mad at McMahon. He said he was there, and he said he looked at him, and he wasn't doing anything the first half, and he said he was sitting in there, and he was laying in there, and he said he had a headband on and his sunglasses, and he said, I went over to him, and I yelled and said, he said, are you stupid or apathetic? And McMahon said, I don't know, and I don't care.
As I was saying, I don't care what anybody else...
Holy moly, it's John Madden in an exciting new video. The coach tells his own story with riotous football experiences, behind-the-scenes broadcasting, his funniest ads, and much, much more. Meet the John Madden everyone wants to know. Feel the excitement of great plays and insights into great players.
You know, linebackers are a different breed anyway.
Recapture the drama of Super Bowl 11.
Because no one else won Super Bowl 11. We did.
Get a personally guided tour of the famous Madden bus. Learn the inside story of hosting Saturday Night Live with his hilarious buckwheat imitation.
Oh, man,
Even his appearance in the Paul Simon Me and Julio music video.
You guys need some fundamentals. What I mean?
All this and more. Use your credit card and call toll-free to order. John Madden, the American dream comes to life. A perfect gift for just $19.95 plus shipping.
To order, call 1-800-624-3600. That's 1-800-624-3600.